And this is a very hard question, and I have children of my own that I don't get to see very often. Um, but like, what what has been what has been the impact on you personally? Um, and I assume this, you don't have to confirm it or not, but from the separation of your children.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's the biggest impact, because whatever people think on the internet. I mean, my kids are the fucking most important part of my life. They're what drives literally every day. Um, they're who I drive literally every day, and not having them around is it's devastating. It's a piece of you that's pulled away, and that's it's something I wouldn't wish on anyone. And I think you may remember, like, back when we were in the thick of kind of really taking nasty jabs at each other. I think I
Sure.
sent you a message and just said, "Hey, man, all the internet bullshit aside, family's family, and I hope things work out where everybody's safe." So I know you know all about it, but like when your kids get when you don't have access to your kids, it fucking sucks.
And,
You wake up and don't really know what to do during the day.
and you did say that, and of course we squashed the beef. People don't realize, like some people don't realize that we squashed that a long time ago. And I said a lot of
There's
nasty things about you. You said a lot of nasty things about me, and I take it on board. But like, when you're separated from your children, and I will say especially you. I have two kids. I think you have five. It's a mental torture basically to go through that. Correct? I mean, I'm asking you, but like,
Yeah. No, I mean, you're asking, but like it is. Like I said, it's my kids are a piece of me, uh, in a very real way. Like, when I see them, I tell them, like, the everything's different. Different kids have, I have different interactions with each one, and you feel it. My my oldest daughter, like, she's hilarious. She's very sarcastic and snarky like I am, and so, like, uh, it's weird not, like, walking into a room and having her remind me that my nose got there 10 minutes earlier. Like, it sounds silly, but it's those little fucking things that when those are gone, that's the spice, man, and it's not there. It's empty.
and so we'll talk about a lot of things, but like, I feel like, first off, let me ask you this. A lot of people have said that you were, I don't want to say the word abuse, but like, your children were not taken care of properly. And that's been put out there in the public domain. It's been put out there by the state of Minnesota. Um, what would you say to that?
No, actually, there's some confusion there, and it's. I mean, I don't talk about this because it's just my word at present. When I actually can, like, show people documentation, I will. But the allegations of abuse and neglect were actually screened out by Child Protective Services. They're not part of any current allegations against us. None of them were ever substantiated or even investigated. The two reports, the one from February and the one from May, were both ignored by Child Protective Services because there wasn't sufficient evidence to proceed with anything, and further, even in the light of all of this, they found no basis for any of that. Everything involving my children not being in my house right now has to do with the with the search warrant that was executed on my house. That's the sole basis. There are no allegations of neglect or abuse or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, everybody. Unfortunately, the way these things work, everybody has to just kind of don't take my word on it. I'll say it, but eventually I'll show you. I just can't yet.
Right. Well, of course, and people may not understand
So
fully. Like when you're, you know, they're trying to put you in jail, basically, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like they have you, you know, indictments and all this stuff, and so you have to be careful with what you say. I am unfortunately very familiar with that. And so, um, what has it been like for you personally to deal with this?
I mean, it's the frustrating part is the pace because you're stuck at government's pace. You get things that are presented to you that you need to deal with or do or take care of, but you can't actually do them. You have to wait for a hearing. You have to wait for whatever the next meeting with a government person is, and all the while you have to just sit there. You can't say anything. You can't do anything because anything you say can and will be used against you. I'm sure there's a bunch of people who are going to freak out about what I've said so far, even though the government already knows everything that I've said. That's the funniest part.
Right.
So everything I've said, the government already knows. So I'm not really worried about it um, in that respect. But it's like, look, man, I want my kids back in the house. I know they belong back here, and so we're working towards making that happen as fast as possible. There's a bunch of misinformation that comes up because the public doesn't have access to everything, uh, mainly because there are laws and that involves children, and so they don't get access to everything, and that's the way that goes. But like for example, people say like I'm not submitting to drug tests or whatever, which is completely false.
Right.
Uh, I'm 100% compliant with everything that the government's asked me to do in regards to child custody stuff. As for the criminal case that's going on, we just don't have anything to do in the criminal case until our next hearing is the 21st, and so I just have to wait next month.
Right.
So like I work with my lawyer and we figure out what to do in ahead of that hearing, but that's a ways out.
And so, and again,
In the meanwhile, you try and just figure out what the fuck life is between constantly thinking about this pending legal issue, and also still trying to live.
like you cut out for a sec, but um, just live. No, like you have to live life regardless, right? And so I'll ask you this. My internet is like completely fucking up. Okay, so it seems like we're back on. I'm recording
It's
this
really
as
bad.
well. Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah. Sorry, I had to run away from the hurricane in the in the Yucatan. So I'm in Mexico City right now. But and you can confirm or deny or whatever. Like your kids have been taken from you though, correct?
My kids are taken from me. My kids are on a what's called an emergency placement. It's related to their parents were arrested, and the kids have to go somewhere thankfully we have significant amounts of family close by, and they were able to, they're able to house our children in the meanwhile. So our kids are with family, um, and but they're not at home, if that makes sense.
Yes,
I've seen some speculation out there that they went with like
sure.
strangers or something like that. No, that's not true. They're with family, and we get to see them. It just has to be, there are rules around seeing them.
So they have not been taken by the state, is what you're saying.
I mean, they've been placed into a temporary placement with family. So in that respect,
With your
they
own
have
family,
been
like with your
taken.
own relations, though, right? Like not like just
Yeah,
random.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and to be clear, our children are like how do I analogize this? Our children are like in a pre-trial probation. We haven't even had our trial on child custody. It's what's called an emergency placement. The determination is that an emergency existed within the home that was determined by the allegations from the execution of the search warrant, right? The search warrant execution, as the internet well knows, alleges that a substance was removed from my home.
Sure.
And so, in light of that, there's an emergency placement that occurs until the county or the state is able to adjudicate whether the children are in need of ongoing services. That hasn't happened yet. We haven't gone to trial on it. So right now, it's like I said, it's like a pretrial probation, to analogize it to a criminal case.
So, and again, you can get into this or not. Do you think that that's being used against you, like in one manner? Like, of course you want your children back in your home, and you have 5 kids, and I'm reading this and I don't know the full aspect, and it's like, wow, are they talking about
Let me
separating
address
these kids?
something. Hold on. Let me
Go
address
ahead.
something real quick,
Sure,
because
sure.
the real quick, the chat. Some people in the chat are misunderstanding what I'm saying. The pretrial probation is us as the parents, and the children are in temporary placement. I'm not blaming the children. Anyone who thinks that I
No.
said I was blaming the children is retarded. I'm saying that there was an emergency placement determination made, and that's akin to a trial probation. The actual trial on whether or not the children are in need of protective services happens later. But the way the state operates is that in the interest of the child, they defer to the side of safety, right? And so they presume that an unsafe condition existed because of the search warrant's execution. Once we go to trial, they'll make a determination if the children need to be placed into foster care or returned back to us, or if they need to, go for like a temporary time. The state wants to move forward even farther. That all happens later. That hasn't happened yet.
Right. Yeah. No. There will still be a determination on that, but like, and again, I hate to be Larry King here or whatever, but like, what has that been like on you? Like, I feel like I know how it's like where people demonize you and you're not a real person and you're considered, just a demon or whatever. What has that been like for you to deal with this?
That part is it's it's simultaneously frustrating, and it's also not. Because one thing, of course, the truth, like what happened.
Yes.
No one else knows. The state doesn't know. The They have to construct, their story, and then I go and the state go, and we argue our stories. That's court, right? So that hasn't happened yet. But in the meanwhile, what happened in your own house and with your own kids,
Sure.
and no one else does. But the only story that the people on the internet hear is whatever comes out, and it's from the state, unless I decide to go out and and tell the full story. Obviously, there is no way to talk about anything in your own best interest outside of court. Like there just isn't. It doesn't matter who you are or what your story is. There's just no way to do it. So I have to wait and tell that story to court before it can be stated online. So the consequence of that is that in the meanwhile, people will determine whatever they determine. And so it's like, it sucks because you know things that didn't happen that people think did happen, but that's all they can go off of is the information they have. So you can't really be mad about it. You just have to kind of fucking suck it up, man. Like, and it sucks, but what are you going to do? So what happens now for me is wait, eventually tell the story to the court. And then once that telling is done, and everything's resolved, I can share my side with the world, and then they can make their determinations or keep the same ones that they've made. And that's the fucking ropes, man. Like there's nothing you can do about that.
Now I'll ask you a couple tough questions here, and you can answer as you please. There are first off, I've stated on the record, there's a follicle test. I don't put any stock in that. You don't have to say anything there, by the way, but I think that's bullshit. But so okay, so they have that. They're throwing that out there and putting it out there with one 9-year-old, and I hate to even mention the age, and I won't mention the name, etc.
I appreciate that.
Yes, because it's fucked up. I mean, it's the most fucked up thing I've seen actually, and I've seen a lot of fucked up shit. But what is the what is the feeling from you and your wife, by the way, who I met as well, and by the way, me and you've had beef and we talked a lot of shit about each other, and this is your first appearance back on the show in many years for many reasons, because we talked a lot of shit, but I never, I never would have wished anything like this upon you, or upon your wife, or upon your children. Like it's insane. What has it been like to deal with personally?
I mean, like what I think you're alluding to is shit like that the follicle test or whatever,
Yes.
which is got its own story. And again, this is a frustrating one to talk about because there's so much to that. And people are going to take that in the opposite way. I'm not even talking about there's so much to the results or whatever. I'm talking about there's so much to the release of that and the circumstances around it that, again, that whole story isn't even done being told to the court yet. So like there's so much about that, and I can't say anything, which
Sure.
really fucking sucks, because what I can tell you was when we were informed, we were absolutely incensed, because frankly that result's fucking impossible.
Well, that's what I said, because it's just I don't know. It makes no sense to me. It doesn't jive with reality, in my opinion. I've said that publicly already, and it's insane, basically, right? Like it just doesn't make any sense. But that being said, there, and again, you have to be careful with what you say, but it seems to be being used as a hammer against you, in other regards. And again, you can comment or not comment on that, but
I think if I can infer your question in the hypothetical without details, there's a there's a thought that the state would use various things as leverage in maybe another situation. So there's sort of, in a situation like this where you have a criminal case and a custody case, you have two parallel tracks that are happening on different timelines, and what happens in one can affect the other in
Sure.
very impactful ways. For example, statements in a child custody case may impact the criminal case, leading to liability. Like if I were to say something in the child custody case, they could technically use it in the criminal case.
Yes.
So what that does is it makes it really complicated to communicate with the state in the custody case, because they want to talk about a whole bunch of things, and saying anything regarding certain subjects, puts you at the chance of having a statement misused against you in the other context. So it makes it really fucking difficult. That difficulty only benefits the state, because the state then has the ability to say, well, they're not answering questions. Like, well, I have a Fifth Amendment right to not answer questions of any kind. But then they say, well, if you don't answer questions, how can we bring children back to your home? I'm like, I don't know. Why don't you meet your burden to show that they shouldn't be there? And it goes back and forth like that. So it's like, without getting into specifics about what things the state can do, having this parallel track on the two cases means that things that happen in one impact the other, and timelines in one can impact the other. And the state uses that leverage in both cases at the same time. They know you want your kids back. They also know that anything that you say to them in the one case can be used against you in a criminal case, and they're looking for a conviction. So those two things are sort of adverse interests for me, and they're parallel and contributing interests to the state. So that's to their advantage. And that's a really shitty part about being in the circumstance that I'm in, is like, I just have to navigate that and deal with it. And that's why you hire the right people to do it.
Now, but before I go into Imholt, I guess I'll go into it now, but in a certain way. He was last week accused of abusing his wife, headbutting her and choking her, and again, you can refrain from whatever you want to say about him, but he's presented himself as this truth teller, and it's like, okay, well, his two ex-wives were besties at one point, and he's been accused of choking and headbutting April, and you can get into this or not, but that certainly changed the dynamics of how some people saw what he was saying.
Look, here's what I'll say. I'm going to say the same thing about Aaron that I've said basically every time. Aaron, on what he says. Aaron is his own man. He gets to say whatever he wants to say. He has his own show, and I hope he makes $1 million. People can assess his credibility without my input. A brief statement on the allegations of the that were in the restraining order petition that then allude back to allegations of domestic abuse between Aaron and April. All of that shit happened. All of those allegations and stuff happened before I had even first encountered April, which was, I was on one Simpcast with her in late 2022 or early 2023. I don't remember. And
Yes.
then I didn't re-encounter the Imholtz until September of last year. So all of that stuff happened before I met them, and I'm not involved in that situation. I don't know anything about it other than what people have read in the in the fucking petition that was leaked or whatever. Like, so I can't really comment on it. I don't know.
Right. Well, yeah, and again, I've been accused of things I didn't do by women, and so I'll give him, who knows what happened there, but it certainly changes, in my opinion, at least, like his truth teller persona. Like I don't know, you don't have to comment on it. I'm commenting on it myself, right? Like it's like, oh, okay, this is guy's angel, and then it's like, oh, okay, maybe he's not, right? And so and all that came out. He certainly said a lot about you and your family, and April herself. He alleges she's still there with you, or like at your side home, or whatever. You don't have to. I'm not asking you to confirm that at all, but like, I saw Dick Masterson, common friend of ours, say, well, this kind of changes the situation, right? Like this might be a guy protecting a woman from spousal abuse, right? Like, and you don't have to confirm that or deny that, but
I want to address that real quick. There's a tendency for some people to try and like promote themselves as some sort of noble, generous hero or whatever. Look, guys, my concern right now in all of this is that I have an ongoing felony charge. And right now I'm focused entirely on getting my children back where they belong in their home with their parents. So like I'm not, if people want to speculate on any sort of motivations and stuff when they don't have any of the external details, that's what the internet does. It's great at speculation and gossip. And what I'll say is this, the people involved can speak for themselves if they choose to. And it's not my job to do that for anybody. So I'm not claiming to be any sort of hero. I'm not claiming there's a reason to be a hero. That's other people can go ahead and do their hero promotion all they want. I'm worried about my felony, and I'm worried about my family. That felony charges, to be clear, before someone has a fucking autism fit. But I'm worried about the felony charges, and I'm worried about my family. Like trying to concern myself with any other thing that's not there.
do you think he'll go to jail?
Me?
Yeah.
I fucking hope not. It's look, man, I did my overnight at the county lockup, and it wasn't pleasant. It wasn't the worst thing ever. I just mostly slept because I have narcolepsy, so I just laid down, went to sleep, woke up, there was another shitty meal there, and did that again until my arraignment. But it's Minnesota, like I can briefly talk about this because it's a general thing.
Sure, go ahead.
Minnesota has codified sentencing guidelines. Congress got together, wrote a law that says, here's how crime should be sentenced. And they have 3 different sentencing guideline grids. They have the general grid, then they have the drug offender grid, and then they have the sex offender grid. So my felony charge is 2nd-degree possession currently, and that is on the drug offender grid. And what happens is you have the 2 axes. The y-axis is the like level of offense, and the 2nd-degree drug possession is pretty high up there. I think it's 7 out of 10.
And they score these things like points. Yes, I know how it goes. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So the x-axis is the number of offenses. Well, I'm a first-time offender as far as the grid is concerned. Like speeding tickets and shit don't count. So I'd be a first-time offender. If speeding tickets counted, we know.
Oh my God, I saw those. Oh my God, he didn't show up for a speeding ticket. Oh my God, he's the worst guy ever. Anyway, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I'll leave that alone. But go ahead.
It's fine. But no, so like so I'd be a first time offender, and so the presumptive sentence for a conviction for 2nd-degree possession of a controlled substance is 48 months. It's either 44 or 48 months, doesn't really matter. It's one of those 2. But there's a presumptive stay of execution. So what that means is the judge will sentence you to the 44 or 48 months,
And
whatever it
suspend
is.
it, right?
Right. And they'll suspend it out and you're put on probation. You may have county jail time and you may have a fine imposed, but the presumptive sentence is not going to prison. There's some flexibility in there. But deviating from that in Minnesota requires the judge to actually have reasons, and that shit's appealable. So look, the perspective outlook on us, if everything just kind of goes normal and then ends up with us being found guilty. Like if we went to trial and we're found guilty, so no like plea deal, leniency or anything like that, that would be a perspective or presumptive stage sentence of it's like I said, it's either 44 or 48 months, and then we'd be put on probation for like a year or 2 years. Now, a whole shitload of things could happen in the meanwhile, right? Like they could determine that we don't meet the criteria for second-degree possession, and it should be third, or they could decide that they found us running, a slave trade. Or something, and like tack on a bunch of charges, or I could get like in really weird theory, like I could get charged with a felony, do a speedy trial, and have that trial have me convicted, and then I'd be I'd be a second-time offender, right? Like all of those things could change the outcome, but the presumptive sentence would have no prison time, and as far as jail time goes, it's impossible to say what a judge would do, and I'm not aware of anything that the currently not aware of any plans of the county for things like if they wanted to pursue aggravating factors or whatever. We just don't have enough. We don't have any information about that stuff yet. We're way too early in the process. So
now you did have the judge changed, right? From what I read, and what was that reason?
Minnesota gives you 10 days, I believe it is, 10 days to just have a one-time shot to remove a judge and to change them out. So the judge in my criminal case was the judge in my civil case, which is ongoing, and I requested to have that judge changed. You don't have to have a reason. It's literally just
a strike. It's like a strike, right? You have the ability, right? Like, yeah. I mean, I can see why you would do that, but like, it doesn't matter whether you have a reason or not. Like, you can just take that person out, right? Okay. All right. So I want to ask you about that. Let me ask you this. There is a contingent of your audience or former audience, or, you still have a very successful live stream. I mean, I saw you the other day, you had 2,000 people watching, whatever or more. Right. Yeah. Praise be. And that's great. That's very successful. That's like in the top 1% or more of streamers. And so, you're still doing pretty well, but, I see people, it's mostly from Kiwi Farms, to be honest with you. But they'll say you presented yourself as someone that you're not. That you acted like you were this Christian upholding, family man, and you weren't actually that person, and they felt personally hurt enough about it that they wanted to attack you, which is also a totally different level. Like that's one thing. It's one thing to say like, okay, this guy wasn't what I thought he was, and I just like said fuck him. But also it's another level to say, oh, he wasn't what he thought he was, and now I want to attack him. But your thoughts on that, allegation, because it's out there.
Sure. So it's like in two parts. One is Nick presented himself. Well, let's do it in backwards order of what I was going to do. Am I the same person that I was when I started streaming? Well, no. One, I think streaming itself changes you because you place yourself in this in the public eye, and then that's more sort of stimulus or input into who you are. You get criticism, you get compliments, you get commentary about who you are at a far accelerated rate. If you think about how long it takes you walking around your town to encounter 1,000 people. And yet right now in this live stream, we got what, like a couple thousand people watching right now. So you got a couple thousand people who could be, who are possibly giving you input, calling you retarded or whatever. Whereas when I walk around town, only about like 35, 45 people call me retarded. And so that changes you. I mean, it just does. Plus, I'm just significantly older than I was, six or 7 years now. Yeah, I started in, I'm coming up on 7 years of streaming. Like 7 years of time, generally speaking, is pretty drastic for me. Like that's a lot of change that's happened. When I look at any 7-year period going backwards, I'm a way different person every 7 years on kind of the outward stuff. Now, getting to the crux of your question with like Nick presented himself as this tradcon person.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying other people said that, right? Like, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think you probably have a lot of experience with this too.
I do.
Is that people they get a glimpse. I describe it as trying to describe the inside of a ship when all you can do is look through a porthole.
So like true.
They see this little window and then they have to fill in the gaps. And for us, we let you fill in the gaps because one, we can't address everybody's individual interpretation of who we are. There's not like physically time for it. But you let people fill in the gaps. Obama called himself a blank slate, for example, that people post their opinion or put themselves onto. Like it's kind of like that, just not as pretentious as Obama makes it.
It's
just like
similar though. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
You go out and you do what you do, and you may have a persona or not. It doesn't really matter. And people have to paint a picture. Well, my picture looks like this. I've been married almost 20 years now. I have 5 kids. I'm a Christian. We homeschool. So, and I like guns and stuff. So like people go, oh, blam, 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 conservative, right? Like super conservative, traditional conservatism. And I tick a lot of those boxes because, you know, I'm fairly right leaning. I like low taxes. You know, I can have complex discussions about immigration, but I think a country needs to secure its borders, you know, of all of, and I believe in capitalism in general. So like I have a lot of conservative things. So people, and depending on the subject matter that you encounter, it'll really look like, if you go back, it'll really look like I'm super conservative. But there are a lot of issues that I'm pretty damn socially liberal on. And I've also grown more socially liberal on some issues, you know, as time went on. So like that, the combined effect of as people get exposed to just different facets of who you are, they can take that as like a betrayal. Like you promised them something and then you did the opposite. It's like, well, I didn't really promise it. And they're like, you didn't portray yourself that way. It's like, well, there's a lot of ways I haven't portrayed myself because I didn't really have the opportunity to do so. But you know, I don't know. I try not to like make it into anything bigger than that. If people change, like if they think you've changed and they don't like who you are, then okay. Sorry. I'm not like, I know who I am and where I believe I've changed. Other people have different opinions, and that's cool. Like I don't mind. If you like the show, keep watching. If you like making fun of me, keep watching. And if you don't, like, peace, man. It's cool. That's part of the business.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And also, you know, I mean, people only get a certain glimpse into your life, right? Like what you're talking about on air, and you know, they get this certain persona, and believe me, I know. And you know, I don't have to tell you the story. And you know, a lot of those times were great times. You know, that period of my life.
Do the
I love that period in my life, but it ended, right? And it was a bad ending, right? So,
Yeah.
like, what else can you do? But go ahead, say what you want to say.
I was just gonna say, like, the different things that people get to do in life. You know, there's like the family man part of me, right? Like that part is a huge part. And the internet only gets this tiny window into it. They don't see what my average day is like and how I interact with my kids, and that's fine. That's not really their business. It's not what I put online, and that's, you know, that also means that people will speculate about it to a higher degree with less facts to base their speculation on. That's the trade-off. Some people put their kids like all over the place, and that always weirds me the fuck out. Like,
You know
not a
what?
big.
I regret that because I had a child. I can't be too specific,
No, I
unfortunately,
know.
because of legal reasons. But and I put them out, put pictures out, and it's like, oh, I want to show it. Like normal people do that, right, Nick? You know what I'm talking about. Like, oh, here's my
Oh,
baby,
dude.
so and so. Like, oh, wow, it's great, it's great, it's great. But you don't really have that leeway as a person like we are.
Yeah, it's just
And
because we go online and talk a bunch of talk
you
a
talk
bunch
a
of
bunch
shit.
of bullshit, yeah.
No, it's part of it. And so, I mean, I remember when I first like went in and I was like, oh shit, I got to actually lock down my Facebook page because I got
Yeah.
these like you got pictures of your kids up there or whatever. And it's like, well, you could try and go back and start curating your Facebook page, or it's like, or I could just lock it the fuck down and only use it to talk to my family if I ever need to. Like that's about that. But it's just a different thing. The advantage that I had over you is that I had my kids a lot earlier
True.
and a long time before I was involved in like
And
talking
all this
online and stuff.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And combine that with Lady Raggets and I were always kind of paranoid about having our kids out there too much. So we already had pretty limited pretty limited sharing of our children's like pictures and stuff. And so once I started streaming and being out on the internet more publicly, it wasn't hard at all to kind of lock that down. And there are very few instances where my kids show up on something. It's almost never on something that I've done. So
But there are some though.
yeah, of course. Like
And so I'll just cut you off there, and not to
yeah,
be rude, but
no.
the reason I cut you off there is because of the church aspect.
Yeah.
And you had spoken publicly of your disagreements with certain aspects of church teachings, that church's teachings, etc. And I have not shown this on my stream because I don't like. I am horrified by thinking about that happening to my children. But there are, they're out there, right?
Yeah.
And so, what do you think about that in general? And what do you think about the church in general? And would you do it again to put them out there like that?
Um it's an interesting thing you never really think of. Like you never think that, oh yeah, a lot of churches kind of have a camera and they just show,
Sure.
they're filming their sermons and sharing them out there. And some of the churches like I used to go to this when I lived in the Twin Cities. My friend was a associate pastor at one of the really big churches there. And we would go a couple times and they have like fancy fucking camera work. They got all these 8K cameras and they like zoom in on people and track them around. And, their
Sure.
worship sets like big fucking rock concerts and stuff. And then you have small town churches where it's one static camera that's just taking a wide shot. And there's not someone like panning and scanning the whole fucking time. So they're going to invariably pick up some of the congregation. And I never even thought about it. Right. But then people were like posting a video from the church service. It's like, holy shit,
Yeah.
that's wild. Um,
I didn't
that's
show it for the record,
I
because I
appreciate
don't
that.
feel that's appropriate, to be honest. And the fact that they name your children in these documents without redaction, like I feel like that's fucked up. But I didn't show it. But anyway, go ahead, continue your thought.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's weird. As to our church, they're I'm not going to speak too much about it. Look, every community, it doesn't matter what kind of community is, has similar characteristics, right? People are effectively people. And there's some variation in some of the numbers of like gossips or busybodies or people who are really accepting, like that. There's some variation amongst groups, but it's all basically the same. You get a distribution of everything. And so, let's just say that there's a lot of shit said by members of our church that is completely fucking false and completely baseless, like legitimately baseless. And if they had simply asked anybody, these things could have been dispelled. And I'll address one of them specifically because this one's come up a lot, or it came up a lot a while back. There's so much juicier stuff now, but there's an allegation, for example, that Lady Rackets and I went to a casino and left our children at home in the care of our oldest. Now, for one, that would be legal in the state of Minnesota. Our oldest is old enough to do that. That's not acceptable in our house. That has never been, that would never be something that we would do. And the only times we have ever gone to the casino is there 3 times. Twice was for the Make-A-Wish ball, this year and the previous year. And then the other time was at Christmas. All of those times, our children were with Lady Racket's parents. Like, so we've never left our children, even if we would have, it would have been legal, but we never did that because we're way like we guys, we hired a full-time fucking nanny just to make sure that our children always had supervision and to make sure that there were always adults readily available to transport the children, to feed and clothe them, and to make sure that they were supervised. And so like this, it was wild to read that because like all you had to do is not ask us. You didn't have to ask us. All you had to do is ask Lady Racket's parents, who, you know, like these people know them. If they would have just asked, like, oh man, they went to the casino and they left their kids at home, they would have said, no, they were at our house. That's it. Solved. And so it's like, but that allegation gets made and put in a document. And if you read that, it's like, well, someone heard that and told the pastor that. And he's like, well, I don't know if that's okay. Well, first of all, if you read the law, that would be okay. But second of all, we didn't fucking do it. And so that gets shared around. And it's like, well, no, like
it's a small town. It's a small town.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And if all people had to do is ask. It's like, well, yeah, we could have corrected that real fucking quick. But instead you went to the government, I guess. It's weird, man. That's a strange fucking attitude, in my opinion. But
and I'll ask you this: do you regret living in a small town? Because this has been brought up by Tick Masterson and others, and common friend of ours. Like that, this would not have happened, or possibly not have happened, if you were in Miami or St. Paul for that matter, right? Like a bigger city where people gossip about you in a small town. I am from a small town. I was born in Memphis, but I lived in West Memphis, and so it was a 20,000 person town. And so people talk about you all the time and throw all this stuff out there. Do you have some regrets over that?
No. I mean, look, you can always say something would or wouldn't have happened somewhere else or under some other circumstances, but there's no way to like know that. There's no way to sort of gauge that. And as you know, like the part of all this is as was brought up, like we're in the public eye.
Yes.
Because of our own choosing in a lot of ways. But that means that, we would have been in the public eye in, presumably, all other things being equal, in any city. And so could this have come up in the exact same way? I mean, it depends. If we were in a big city, Lady Rackets and I probably wouldn't be going to like a mega church. Like that's not the feel we would go to. So we might have the same sort of environment, church environment that led to the sort of gossipy bullshit that was going on. Like, so it's hard to fucking say what would happen. I don't like to speculate. It would have been different. I know what Dick is saying. But no, I don't regret living in a small town. I like it. I like the country life. I didn't think I would. I was raised in cities, but I like it out here. It's peaceful until there's a bunch of sheriffs in your fucking driveway.
Till they're knocking at your fucking door. Yeah. I understand. But so Okay, and of course, people are trying to raid this chat, and they can't get in unless I let them in, and I'm not gonna let them in because it's me and you,
Yeah.
right here.
Speaking
So
of, I gotta book it in about 9 minutes, man.
that's
I'm
cool.
sorry.
That's cool. No, it was an hour. That was what was agreed upon. But
But and I'll come back on if you want to like continue the interview. It's just uh it's in about 9 minutes. I gotta run. But I'm not opposed to like again scheduling out because I know we had a lot of technical difficulties at the
we
start
did.
and so like happy to do that. Not a problem.
Yes, I would love to do that, and I would definitely take you up on that offer because we did have some technical difficulties. But um, so I'm trying to think. I know you don't want to talk about Aaron and all his bullshit that he's put out here. Did you lose your way? In a certain respect.
Did I lose my way? I don't know. That's an interesting question because the answer to that could presume a set of circumstances that is true or not true or partially true. What I'll say is this: uh, as far as again, whatever Aaron's saying, that's his own shit that he gets to say, and determine his credibility on your own. Not, I'm
Sure.
not helping. I'm not helping anybody do that. What I'll say is this: I made plenty of choices in life, and made plenty of choices about over the past year that I would do the exact same, and plenty I would do differently. And it's it's not really worth dwelling on that shit. You just learn from what happened, and then you modify your behavior going forward. I don't know if I lost my way because I'm not sure what way I had other than the way I went. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Like,
And again, I say this to people: they only get a glimpse of you from the streaming, and you and I have talked about this briefly, but like being a streamer and putting it out there, but you only put a little bit out there, right? Like
yeah,
people don't really understand what it's like to be under the microscope. Most people don't, at least. And so it's hard to deal with when that shit blows up.
yeah, and it's weird because you have a couple options when when the microscope gets turned on you, or sometimes it's a telescope, right? Like, uh, you have a couple options, and it's like you can try and address things, you can try and joke along with it, you can try and deny things, or you can confirm things. And the reality is that streamers do a mix of all of it, right? Like you and
Sure.
you sometimes you're throwing fucking darts. Like it's like, do you like roll with these jokes? And then the jokes become like, I was actually just talking about this with Lady Rackets while we were driving today. It was like uh in our sector, in the sector, right? Like there are things that are jokes, and there'll be a joke for a while, or like maybe someone has a really bad day, and there's like a meme joke that comes out of it, and it starts off like funny and memey, but then something else happens and something else happens, and it makes it like way more serious and fucking brutally mean.
Yeah.
And then you're like, that joke that was kind of like funny and lighthearted is now fucking vicious. And like we're throwing darts trying to like figure out how to do it. So sometimes you roll with a joke at the beginning, but then it becomes this vicious thing, and you're like, well, now I can't reel that back in. There's no way to do it. And so other times you just have to kind of fucking like deny shit outright, like when it's really bad, I guess. But you also don't have time to address everything. So it's a fucking tough sort of circumstance to be in because you never know what to do, or like how the internet is going to take something, or how they're going to change like what the advice is on how to handle something. Because do you remember when the advice for everything was lean into the joke?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, how's Vito doing with leaning into the joke? Right? Jesus
Not
Christ.
well. Yeah, yeah. And that's not good advice, by the way. But yeah, but that's just lean into it. Just play into it. No big deal. And it doesn't work out that way. Now I'm gonna run through some super chat. I know you don't have long. And I would love to have you back, like you said, for another conversation. And it's funny because you and I had a great relationship for years, and then all of a sudden we didn't, and many reasons for whatever. Yeah, it is what it
The
is.
reality though is it was a bunch of stupid little misfires and
It was.
miscommunications, and there's like you have those, and then you have little people prodding on the outsides, and then like those prods like overlap with a joke, and then something gets misunderstood, and like one person will have a shitty day and they'll take it bad, and the other person will have a shitty day and take it bad, and then all of a sudden like you've been like prompted into having a fucking fight with someone you were chill with just just like a month before. It's weird, man. Like, what the hell is that? Like, why'd this blow up in my face?
It's crazy, honestly, because you and I, we met in person. I met you. I met your wife. I had good times with you guys, and not in a nefarious way, by the way, to be clear.
Oh no! Oh no! You started it. God damn it, Ralph! God damn it! I knew this was a bad idea.
But I mean, like I knew you guys personally, right? And we met in person, and I enjoyed those meetings and enjoyed your company and your wife's company, and hanging out, and then things get twisted, and there's certain aspects to it. We could go into it all. It's not worth it. But like, I will ask you this, and then I'll run through the super chats and the more critical questions that were sent to me real quick, so I can get you off here.
Real quick, man.
Yeah, real quick. But well, and something just
And
popped
Keith Ellison
through.
sent $5, Nick. It is the fact that only your
Okay,
wife.
all right.
and
Well,
April-
look. I'll get to that. But what I'm saying is, people see what they see on their screen, and they take a certain perception of it, and they feel like personally hurt if you don't live up to their expectations, right? And it's happened to me many times, right? I don't know what you think about that, but if you do have a thought on it, go ahead.
I mean, yeah. Well, anytime we all generate expectations about everything, and when they're met or exceeded, it's great. When they're not met, it sucks. And there's various degrees as to how much that is true in either direction. And the degree is, proportional to how much investment you have in it. Some people have a lot of investment in our shows and our personalities. Some people, like we meet them and see them whenever we go to live events. You see that I've seen the same set of people several times at multiple shows. It's like you kind of get to know them. If you then betray something, even if you didn't mean to, but like you somehow betray that, then that person's gonna really be pissed off. Some guy who like watches a clip of you one time is like, oh, bet that guy's an asshole, and then he watches another video a year later, he's like, yep, that guy was an asshole. Like that doesn't matter to him at all, So it's like that definitely happens, and there's nothing we can do about it though. Like at some point you can, like if you're charging money to sell someone a product that's based on a set of principles, then you betray those principles. That's bad. If you're like talking online and people have the opportunity to contribute to the show, like paying something and then they don't like something that you do, that's a different character to me. Like that's not false advertising. Like that's not the same, right? The one is like, I'm selling you this thing, but it's bullshit. The other one is like you're participating in a thing and having fun, and then you don't like something later. And it's like, oh, well, then they just have the choice to say, okay, well, I won't do that again. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes,
so.
it makes perfect sense actually, and you know, I don't know. It's a show. It's entertainment, and then some people take it personally when they don't feel like you did what they thought you should do, right?
Yeah.
And so I completely understand. I'm gonna run through these real quick, and I'll speed run, and so just to get you out of here, and I hope we can have you back. This has been the first time in 3 years since you've been on the show. You're a
I'd love to come
Killstream
back.
Hall of Famer. Obviously, you've done so much on this show, and so I don't want to make it just like about this drama. Like, I'm actually happy to have you back on the show regardless of all this, right?
Yeah, man. Hey, can I like really have to go. Can you hit me with one critical question and then seriously save them? And when I come back, and we can do it soon, like I can address them, but I'm up on a hard deadline that just came up. So like I gotta go. So hit me with a critical question like as fast as you can.
That's
please.
cool.
And
Okay,
I'm
well,
sorry.
let me look through these. Okay, give me 1 second. And I'll look through. What about Drex and Camelot?
So here's the thing. I barely have fucking any time to watch things that are out there. So people will send me stuff about like so-and-so said this, so-and-so said that. Here's the thing. I've talked to Camelot a couple times. Right now, most of the people I talk to are lawyers, and Camelot's racing and stuff. Like, I don't know what he said. Camelot's been my boy forever. What if I haven't heard him say, I hate you, or I hate you, I'm gonna kill you now. He's never said anything like that. So like, I'm not gonna like make any decisions on that. Drex, dude, I've talked to Drex one time in like the past 8 months. And it's like, I don't know what happened with Drex, but I haven't talked to him. He hasn't been out here in forever. I'd love to hang out with him and like actually catch up. I don't know what he said or not said either. I've heard some stuff, but it's like, I can't go off what other people say someone says, you know what I mean? So it's like, and I'm focused on like actually dealing with the real shit right now rather than keeping up what other streamers are saying.
One more question, only because people bug me about it. They claim there is other CPS like involvement before this, etc. You can clear that.
There are three. I can clear this up real quick.
Sure.
There are three things that came out there's a report today. It's like a discovery report or something that got, I think, filed, and it talks about 3 prior CPS interactions.
Yes.
One of them was in 2000. Well, the file number is from 2009. That's not actually when it was. That's not our family. Lady Raggets and I were foster parents.
Really?
We were foster parents before our first child was born, and we stopped being foster parents just a little bit before our second child was born. Lady Raggets was pregnant, and she was put on bed rest because she had some bleeding that they were concerned about. And so we were no longer able to keep fostering when she was put on bed rest because I wasn't home and she wasn't able to lift, the kids. The kids unfortunately had to go to another family, and then they were out of our care at that point. It had nothing to do with us. That's just, we're part of the file because we were the foster parents. I don't even remember the last name of that file. It was a long fucking time ago. There was like a February 15th report, and I have no idea what the hell is up with that report. It was ignored by CPS. And then there was a 515 or 516 report. That's the infamous one from our pastor. Yeah. And that one was also actually ignored by CPS. It's called screening them out. So CPS found that there were not substantial allegations to meet the criteria to merit an investigation, and so they ignored them. Again, the CPS involvement in our family is strictly related to the execution of the search warrant and the allegations
Wigger
resulting
Wagner sent $1
from
on
that
Ask Nick if he will
around a
release the body
substance
cam
that was
footage
allegedly
willingly.
removed from our home. I have to
Ask
say all
Nick
these
if he will
alleged
release
to
the
make
body
sure
cam.
there's no whatever. But this is all the government allegations. That's what that's the family matter that we have. The other stuff was ignored by CPS and has not been re-pursued or anything like that. So people don't have to take my word on that. Believe me, disbelieve me, it doesn't fucking matter to me because I'm worried about the case itself. But hopefully someday I can like show you know, the story. Like, but I gotta wait till after everything's done. And with that, dude, I gotta go.
I was gonna say, I want to end it with this. I guess just the mental toll. Like I've been through a lot myself. How have you been able to survive this and still, you know, a lot of people say, hey, he shouldn't be streaming, he shouldn't be talking, he shouldn't be doing this, he shouldn't be talking to Ralph. Like how have you been able to do that in spite of what people are saying?
The true raw honest answer is not very well. It fucking sucks. Every day sucks. And then like you do a show or whatever and people are like, oh, he should be this, he should be that, he should be mad, he should be sad, he should be upset, he should be contrite or remorseful or whatever. It's like, yeah, you are all those things all the fucking time. But when you're doing a show, you gotta go to work, you gotta do your job. And like I could get on the stream and be pissed off and like screaming and hollering, but that's not going to do me or the audience any good. So you kind of pull it together temporarily, like you would when you do anything else in your life. And then you go back to shit being really fucking hard later when the show's done. And
the
so,
show
yeah,
is actually a relief though, right? Like that's how I feel it, right? Like when I have things going on in my life, like the show, I mean, you know, minus the bullshit, right? Like, but it's almost like a good distraction, right? Like it's like I can get away from this for this period of time. I can do my job. I can focus on this. And then, you know, when it's over, it's over. Like I'm thinking about all the bullshit, but I don't know. At least for me, that's how it is. It
is. It's a nice little. It's a release in that way, but it's also a task, and tasks help because then you're not thinking. But dude, I'm sorry, I really gotta go.
No problem. Go ahead and go. And I thank you for coming on the show and giving me the first exclusive interview. And I would love to have you back. And I know you're under a lot of stress, and I wish you the best. I wish your family the best. I'm sorry for the things I said in the past. You know, I shouldn't have done that. And so,
like we said behind the scenes, there's way more important shit than shit that was said in the past. So, all right, man.
I agree with that.
Catch you later. We'll talk soon.
Out. Peace out, Nick Rekieta. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for watching this clip. This is the CACA. Remember to like and subscribe.